Hello everyone, welcome to another movie review. I just got done seeing Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. This is the 7th movie in the actually 8th if you count the original animated film. This is the 8th Transformers movie we've ever had. Before I talk about the movie itself, I want to give you guys a brief history of, my history with Transformers. I haven't really spoken about this a lot on my channel just because I sort of fell out of love with Transformers at one point in my life, and now I'm kind of slowly getting back into it. Not like full-fledged. So basically, when I was a kid, there was 3 things I was really into. One was Yu-Gi-Oh! The other thing was WWE, and the final thing was Transformers, with Transformers being my favorite thing. Like, literally, as a kid, Transformers was my thing for a lot of my youth. Around the time I got into high school is when I sort of phased out of Transformers. And it also kind of has to do with the Michael Bay movies a little bit, which I'll talk about in a second. But basically, as a kid, I was too young to have grown up on the G1 Transformers, so I never really watched any of the G1 Transformers, aside from the animated movie and some clips from here and there, But I did grow up on, I believe it was Cartoon Network used to air these. There was a trilogy of cartoon shows named Armada, Energon, and Cybertron. It was 3 Transformer shows that all aired pretty close to each other over the course of maybe a couple years. And I grew up with those shows. They were basically animes translated into English and stuff like that. So they aired them on Cartoon Network, and I had all the figures from those shows specifically. Transformers was my thing. And I remember in 2007 when they announced there was a live-action film coming out, I was literally, like, to this day, I don't think there's been a movie I was more excited for than the original 2007 Transformers film. Because at that time in my life, I was 11 years old, and Transformers was my world, essentially. And I remember I went to go see that movie with my dad, and it was literally my favorite movie. Like, back then, obviously. Times have changed big time. But that was way before I became, like, a film lover. But, man, it blew me away. And in 2009, Revenge of the Fallen, the hype was also very high. And that one also, I was 13 when Revenge of the Fallen came out. Perfect age, honestly, for that kind of movie. But nowadays you look at it, it's a fucking piece of shit, that movie. That movie is terrible. I can watch it and have nostalgia for it, but there's no changing the fact that it's horrible. And then Dark of the Moon came out in 2011. And at that point, I was in high school, and at that point, I had pretty much tuned out. I bought it on Blu-ray. I didn't bother going to see it in theaters. And I remember watching it and thinking, okay, it was better than Revenge of the Fallen, but it's still, it's still not as good as, like, the first one. The first one's not a masterpiece. I actually rewatched the first movie recently, and I gotta say, having not seen it in, like, 10 years, I had a hell of a good time rewatching the 2007 movie. Like, it actually is a very good movie. There's some stupid stuff in there, of course. Like, it's Michael Bay. There are some stupid, corny jokes in the movie. There are some dumb moments. But honestly, as a film, it is honestly kind of iconic because it sort of started this wave of, like, blockbusters being made a certain way and revolutionizing, of course, CGI big time, So the 2007 Transformers is actually a really good movie. I would not be lying to you. I had a great time rewatching it not too long ago. And then I remember in 2014 was Age of Extinction, which I remember a lot of people thought that one was horrible as well. And I watched that, and I remember thinking, you know what? It wasn't that bad. Sort of like Dark of the Moon, it was okay. Like, I remember being surprised at how much dialogue the Transformers had with each other and stuff. I was like, oh, okay. Sort of mind-numbing action at the end, of course. Same with Dark of the Moon. I'll say the end of that movie is very mind-numbing. Too much action, too much going on. So I didn't totally hate Age of Extinction. Again, there is some stupid shit in that movie. The guy dating the underage girl, and it's stupid. And all the Bud Light advertisement, product placements here, all over the movie. Mark Wahlberg, So, and then I want to say 2017 was the last night. And I actually never, to this day, have seen The Last Night. I never bothered to go see it or buy it on Blu-ray or anything. I was totally just checked out. I was like, you know what? Everyone says it's terrible. What's the point? Like, what's the point? I gave up. I was totally not interested in Transformers anymore at that point in my life. And then a couple years later, I want to say Bumblebee came out in like 2019, I think, 2018. Bumblebee was very good. I bought it on Blu-ray. I heard good things about it. I watched it, and it was a very solid movie. Nothing fantastic. The opening scene, of course, everybody loves to talk about the opening scene on Cybertron. Fantastic. Fantastic stuff. And when I heard they were making basically a new series of movies following Bumblebee, sort of like a prequel series to the first movie, I was like, you know what? That's the best way to do it, honestly, because you don't have Michael Bay involved anymore, you know. You don't have to rely on the sort of Michael Bay verse stuff that he set up in that time period. You could just go back and do different things with different directors. So this one was directed by Stephen Caple Jr., and he's the guy that directed Creed 2. And Creed 2 was excellent. So I was like, all right, this is a good guy. This is a good choice. And I'm pleased to report this movie was also very good. I think I might like this one more than Bumblebee. I still think, though, probably the 2007 movie is the best one. Now, I'm not factoring in the animated movie just because I have not seen it in a very long time. And everyone knows this already. The original animated movie was literally made just to make toys. They literally killed off all the characters just to make new ones, to have new toys. Everyone knows this. You know, don't get me wrong, though. It's a good movie. There's great animation in it. There's very iconic moments. The death of Optimus Prime, the Galvatron, and the coronation of Starscream. Orson Welles voicing Unicron. You know, obviously he didn't give a crap about that, but, you know, it's still cool to say Orson Welles voiced Unicron. And I think that was his last movie he ever did. But yeah. Speaking of Unicron, it's not a spoiler. They revealed in the trailers that Unicron's in this movie, and that also got my excitement up big time. It's like, oh, they're actually going to do a proper telling of Unicron in live action. Like I said, I haven't seen The Last Night, but I heard something online that they like referenced Unicron or something in The Last Night. So I don't know if they're like retconning that movie or whatever. I don't know. And by the way, let me know in the comments, is The Last Night like really bad? Is it the worst one or something? Let me know if I should actually watch it. I'm sure I'll watch it at some point. But yeah, anyways, this movie was very good. I will say my favorite aspect of this movie might be weird or something. To me, this one, in terms of like all the robots, this one was the most seamless. Like, I haven't watched Bumblebee in a while. I feel like, well, Bumblebee was a much smaller story, but in terms of like the big battle at the end, for instance, you can tell like what's going on 100% easily. Whereas some of the other movies, you're watching all this CGI mess. You don't know who's fighting who. Like, who are these characters? Blah blah blah. This movie has not too many robot characters. Like, there's a fine amount. There's not too little. There's not too many in terms of Autobots and Predacons and Maximals. Of course, I forgot to mention Beast Wars. Beast Wars was another thing. I saw that later on. Obviously, when it aired the first time, I did not catch it. I was too young. I ended up watching it later on online, and I love Beast Wars. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember thinking this show was awesome. The CGI wasn't the best. I tried continuing into Beast Machines, which was the following show, and I never really got into Beast Machines. And I got a shout out to the 2009, I want to say, 2010, Transformers Animated. That was a show. That was a great show, Transformers Animated. Watch that whole thing too. But yeah, anyways, this movie was very good. Very, again, seamless in terms of like following who's who, and all the characters were good. All the Autobots had all their time to shine. The Maximals, I will say, unfortunately, as a fan of Beast Wars, I would say Rhinox and Cheetor did not get a lot of dialogue, which was unfortunate. But everyone else had plenty of dialogue. Mirage, voiced by Pete Davidson, which is an interesting choice. I loved his character. He was great. A lot of people don't like Pete Davidson. I personally don't have any issues with him. I think he's fine. I actually think he's funny. You know, I thought King of Staten Island was a great movie. So he was great as Mirage. He's sort of like a Bumblebee-esque kind of character. Like, he's cool, he's hip, you know. He gets along with the humans. Bumblebee, again, excellent in this movie. Optimus Prime, of course, voiced by Peter Cullen. the one and only. Excellent job. I forgot to mention, too, there's so many things coming to my head right now. I actually have an Optimus Prime tattoo on my leg, which I'll put on the screen right here. Yeah, excellent job. And I think, I forgot to look this up. I think Optimus Primal was voiced by Ron Perlman, right? I'm pretty sure he was. Optimus Primal was awesome in this movie. He was great. Honestly, aside from like Optimus Prime, he was probably my favorite character. And of course, Mirage would be probably like my third favorite, and Bumblebee, you know. RC was awesome, you know. She was voiced by Liza Koshy, the YouTuber, I guess. I never really watched her, but she was cool as RC. And I love the designs of the characters, too. Like, they're very much going back to, like, G1 kind of designs, which, in my opinion, is much better than the Michael Bay designs. Even though the Michael Bay designs are cool in their own right, you know, I feel like this new era is much better. And, again, speaking of Michael Bay, this movie did not have any stupid crap in it. There are some corny moments, you know, like, there's some cheesy, corny moments in this movie, but there's no, like, cringy moments. You know what I mean? Just think of, like, Revenge of the Fallen, where Sam's mom is high on weed brownies. Like, it's so stupid. Like, seriously. There was so much stupid crap in the Michael Bay movies, especially the first, well, for Part 2 and Part 3 had some stupid crap in them, in particular. There was no stupid crap in this movie. Anthony Ramos plays the main character. Dominique Fishback plays Elena. There are two great characters in this movie. They were both very good. They worked well with each other, I thought. You know, nothing groundbreaking, you know. But they were fine. You know, they were fine. They were tolerable, you know. Some of the characters in the other movies are not tolerable. The action was very good, I felt. And this movie also wasn't like 5 hours long. It was, I think, 2 hours flat, which honestly was fine. It felt very smooth. The pacing was fine. Would I wanted a little bit more? Maybe. But I'm satisfied, you know. And I gotta say this too. I'm not gonna spoil. I'll do a spoiler section at the end, but this isn't a spoiler. So the way the movie ends is interesting. It's definitely something I was not expecting. And you know what? Honestly, given the history of Transformers, I think it could work going forward. I'm just gonna say that. I'll talk more specifically at the end in the spoiler section. But yeah, I was very much surprised by that. There is a mid-credit scene. There is no post-credit scene, so don't stick around to the end. And yes, I am seeing this right now. It's currently Wednesday night, so it was an early showing. And they had this Optimus Primal print right here. So I don't know if all the theaters did this. I went to Cinemark to see it, and it was in XD, which is sort of like their version of IMAX. So I got to see it on a very nice screen, actually. So I like this print. It's pretty cool. And this movie does take place in the 90s. So there's some Biggie Smalls in there, some other music from the 90s in the movie. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, honestly, I don't have much else to say. This is a very solid movie. I want to give this one an 8.5. I really enjoyed it. Part of me wants to say 9, but I didn't think it was that good to deserve a 9. So I'm going to go 8.5. Very good movie. Go check it out. I'll make a ranking on Letterboxd for all the Transformers movies, even though I haven't watched a lot of them in a long time, but I'll try my best. And again, in the comments, let me know if I should bother watching The Last Knight, because I don't know. I'm sure I will at some point. But I think that's about it. I gotta mention too, the main villain of this movie is actually Scourge, not Unicron. Unicron's sort of like the Emperor, where Scourge is like Darth Vader, essentially. Scourge was a menace. This guy was a very good villain. I forgot. I don't know who voiced him. I had to check that. But he reminded me, I think it was in Age of Extinction, Lockdown. Now, Lockdown was a real savage in that movie. This guy's not quite as savage, I think. But this guy was pretty savage, so I'll just say that. So yeah, anyways, thank you for watching. I'm going to go into the spoiler section now, so leave the video if you haven't seen the movie. So, spoilers. Alright, so I was actually very surprised. They actually killed Bumblebee in the movie and then brought him back to life, sort of like how Optimus died in Revenge of the Fallen, and came back to life. So knowing that this movie's a prequel, obviously Bumblebee's going to survive, and then of course, you know, if you watch the trailers, there's certain scenes with Bumblebee that haven't happened yet. So it was emotional, yeah, but it's like, okay, we know he's going to survive, so, you know. And what annoys me too, speaking of the trailers, they actually showed in one of the trailers the part where he dies. Like, they show Scourge stabbing him, and then the the spark, igniting or whatever. So it's like, why would you show that in the trailer? Like, come on. I was like, literally, when I saw that, I was like, does Bumblebee die in that part or something? Because that looks like he's dying. So I don't know. That was stupid in my opinion to show that. But yeah, no, very good movie again. Unicron, he's still around, so I guess that's going to be the next movie. And speaking of the next movie, G.I. Joe. I mean, it only makes sense. Number one, Hasbro owns Transformers and G.I. Joe. Number two, I'm pretty sure they've crossed over in the past before. I was never into G.I. Joe, really, so, forgive me. I'm pretty sure they've crossed over. And number three, the G.I. Joe franchise is in the toilet. They haven't made a movie in forever, and no one, from what I understand, likes either one of the two movies. I only watched the first one, and yeah, it's not good. So, yeah, so, I mean, to me, this makes sense. I don't know if they're going to, like, do a reboot of G.I. Joe, just make a whole new cast and integrate it into Transformers. I think, personally, they should do that. I don't think they should rely on the older movies. They should just redo it, because, again, I feel like nobody likes those movies. So, oh, man. I remember the second one had Bruce Willis and The Rock, and they killed off Channing Tatum. I never watched it, like I said, so I don't know. But, again, if you're going to kill off Duke, like, no, there's no point. Just redo it. Just redo it. So, it's crazy that this is actually going to happen, Paramount, again, owns both, so, or should I say at least distributes both. So it makes total sense. It's sort of like, what if the Men in Black and 21 Jump Street crossover happened? What if Fast and Furious and Jurassic Park, because Universal owns both of those. Like, those are the what ifs that have been floating around for a while. And this is one that's kind of a no-brainer. So I'm not against it or anything. It's just, I'm kind of like, all right, hopefully it's good, So I don't know. I just got to be more into G.I. Joe, I guess. But yeah, I think that's about it. Spoiler-wise, Michelle Yeoh, I forgot to mention her earlier. She was great as Air Razor. Her death scene was pretty sad, But yeah, I think that's really about it. I'm trying to think. I feel like there's something I wanted to talk about, but I forgot. That's like spoiler sensitive. Yeah, no, I think that's it. So, anyways, thank you guys for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and that's about it. Next week is The Flash, I think. Yeah. So, I'm excited for The Flash. Can't wait to see what happens in that one. So, thank you guys for watching, and have a good one. Bye-bye.